all know Batman, the billionaire goth orphan who insists on punching bad guys instead of using that money to invest in therapy. As a lover of superhero media, including DC Comics, I think it's safe to say I have a liking for Batman as well. How can you not? He fights crime, is rich, he gets women, has stories more complicated than a royal European family tree, the whole shebang. Yet, despite my love for this man, there is one aspect of him that tends to really grind my gears. And based on the title of this excerpt alone, it's pretty easy to know what I'm going to be talking about. Now, I'm definitely not the first person to criticize this aspect about Batman. Many, and I mean many people, have had similar takes. Obviously, I have not seen them all, but from what I have seen, there are aspects to this conversation I think not many people tend to touch on when it comes to the no kill rule. For me, I don't even really have a problem with the no kill rule as a whole, not even as a concept. But what I can't stand is Batman's take on it because of how hypocritical and self crumbling his actions and logic is regarding his application of it. Granted, we can't just base Batman's character off of any old iteration, so we have to go by the consistency. Here's the thing. I'm not upset with Batman for not killing from a legal standpoint because he is a vigilante and works with Commissioner Gordon, a major legal associate. So for Batman to kill someone or multiple people would not only grant him a terribly ruptured relationship with the Commissioner, but it could also taint his public reputation depending on the scenario. Now, I know that Batman generally doesn't care, but that doesn't mean that a bad reputation is not inconvenient, and we see that play out firsthand in the Arkham Origins game, one of the best Arkhamverse games, by the way. Even if possibly stretched, I understand why he can't do anything from a legal stance, and rather that it is the duty of Gotham's Justice Department to handle those issues. But what really burns my toast about the no kill rule that Batman supposedly has is that he insists on not murdering people while giving base level thugs CTE.
Remember, out there's no regimes. Not anymore. So we do not kill. Something. Yeah. Something.
So he's already giving these criminals permanent brain cripplage at best, and that's being generous, yet he has the nerve to say he draws the line at killing? And I'm not even exaggerating or stretching to make a point when I bring up this aspect. Even in Injustice 2, Damian Wayne of all people calls that out.
So you won't kill, but you're fine with traumatic brain injuries.
In my humble opinion, setting someone to live life with permanent life altering brain damage is worse than murder. It's torture, actually. Oh, but my criticisms don't stop here. The next reasons Batman gives for why he doesn't kill is because of these two things here. Reason 1, if you kill a killer, the number of killers stays the same. Reason 2, if I kill, I wouldn't be able to stop. Oh boy, where do I even start with this one? Starting off with reason number 1, I get what he's trying to say. I really do. But the logic just doesn't hit the same at all when you deal with someone like the Joker. I know he's a very popular talking point, but let's just settle down for a second here. The Joker may have used to be a simple cartoon villain who did petty crimes and just blew stuff up while forcing people to laugh at his jokes, but now in more recent variations, he's become the legitimate face of psychopathy as a whole. We are talking about a man who has abused his girlfriend Harley Quinn repeatedly, assaulted the wife of a guy who worked for him because he spoke to Harvey Dent and did it in front of the guy, skinned a man alive, murdered an elderly couple and slept on top of their corpses, blew up an orphanage, killed an entire kindergarten class, chopped their limbs, and mismatched the sewn limbs back on, kidnapped, tortured, and killed Jason Todd, Batman's adoptive son, by the way, that's going to be very important later, kidnapped, tortured, and assaulted Barbara Gordon, and then broadcasted him doing so for people to watch. There is so much disgusting and utterly heinous stuff this man has done that even referring to him as a human is too much of a compliment. I'm not even saying that Batman has to kill him because it's legally just not his job, and he could very well suffer social or legal consequences for doing that. But why? Why, oh, why, chicken pot pie, has he never, at the very least, went up to Gotham's Justice Facility and be like, hey, yo, y'all gotta put this man in death row because he's never gonna change, he just wants to hurt people? I would love to see a form of media where Batman challenges the justice system directly and drags them in front of a courtroom. Have Bruce sue the Justice Department. That would make national headlines in his universes. In fact, the only reason why there are super violent cults and stuff in Gotham all the time is because they want the change that the justice system just doesn't give them. He's done that in other comics. Yeah, but definitely not in a way that mattered regarding the mainstream development of his overall character. There are as many different comic universes as there are in the sky, so yes, of course, there's going to be one obscure comic or two or three that states these different events. But regarding the mainstream, that's just not overall what he does. Bruce is sometimes in the political scene, but almost never points the finger at the justice system in the ways it truly counts. So, in a brief nutshell, regarding the whole if you kill a killer, the number of killers stays the same crap, it ticks me off because Batman doesn't exactly do much of a good job besides punching baddies, and not IG models, I mean criminals, in the face and doing it in an occasionally stoic grumble. We all know, especially if you've studied the world of Gotham extensively, that Gotham's justice system has a whole I can fix them complex, even with the most heinous people they have in their facility. And Batman even calls this out in one of the Arkhamverse games when a facility was adamant about trying to treat Zaz.
Zaz will be rehabilitated eventually. These things just take time.
This patient will be hard to cure.
What do you base that opinion on?
On the fact that he has hundreds of self-inflicted scars on his body. One for each of his victims. Ever thought what will happen when he runs out of flesh to scar?
I am convinced he'll respond to treatment before that happens.
Just don't get so absorbed in his treatment that you wind up as his final cut.
Some people have even argued that Batman's no-kill rule simply doesn't work for a darker universe. I, for one, kind of disagree with that because I do think that Batman is capable of making legitimate change while still following the said no-kill rule. He just has to go outside of the traditional hero formula. Maybe have a comic where Bruce realizes that in certain situations, he has to attack it as Bruce Wayne and use his resources rather than put on a skin-tight costume and punch people. Am I saying that money is going to solve every single little tiny thing? No. But one thing's for darn sure, if Bruce Wayne can afford to have Elon Musk level technology inside of a cave and constantly make himself new protective suits on the daily, there is absolutely no reason why this guy shouldn't be getting the best lawyer he could get and suing the Justice Department. Now, regarding the whole if I kill, I won't be able to stop thing, here's my feelings on that as well. It's one thing to understand your boundaries and what your limits are, and I don't blame Batman for doing so. My problem with it is that Batman expects everyone else to operate on the same wavelength that he does. And whether you agree with him or not, you gotta admit that in a way, he's just not entitled to everyone following his way of doing things. Everyone thinks that their way of doing something is the best way to do something because you are the only one who has experience doing it that way. And this subject absolutely comes up when it comes to Jason Todd. Told you he was going to be important. Without a doubt, Red Hood is arguably a very violent person, as he's known for killing criminals, and depending on the version of him we look at, the frequency of the violence tends to vary. Because Jason was failed by the very people and system that he was groomed into protecting, he becomes incredibly disillusioned with the world around him. And yes, I said groomed, because he was a child when he was taken in and trained to fight crime. Bro was literally groomed into being a child soldier. What kind of weirdo does that? So it's no wonder that Red Hood looks at the injustice around him and says, freak it, I'm gonna handle justice the way I think it should be handled. And whether you agree with his stance or not, you can't deny that he at least has a plausible reason for acting and thinking how he does. Because really think of it from Jason's perspective for a second. You're an orphan who gets adopted by a billionaire, who just so happens to be your city's hero. That said billionaire then trains you to fight crime. One day you get kidnapped and tortured by said billionaire's arch nemesis for a long period of time before you eventually die. Then you're revived in some weird pit, and you find out that your adoptive billionaire father had been training your replacement the whole time that you were gone and seemingly never bothered to look for you. Yeah, I think it goes without saying it's understandable why he's so ticked. Being left behind by whatever family he had left at the hands of his father's arch nemesis, and on top of that, the insult of a justice system who sees no point in trying to punish the one who did all those terrible things to you, it makes sense why Jason is so dead set, pun intended, on killing criminals. In the majority of his iterations, Jason doesn't really go overboard with it. He only really resorts to killing criminals who created great offenses and re-offenses, such as the Joker. But Batman can't see Jason for what he's doing because he assumes that everyone else is like him, that once they kill, they never stop. In fact, the entire DC Comics Injustice timeline is entirely about that concept, if or when killing evildoers is necessary. On one hand, Batman is probably right about Jason, that he won't stop killing. Because let's be honest, evil is an ever growing species of human. Evil, unfortunately, doesn't go extinct. However, what bugs me about Batman's approach to it is the fact he assumes other people don't have self control, and he tries to make everyone else fit into his little box when they do not have to. I am a firm believer that peaceful options should be first and always the default for dealing with criminals or quote unquote difficult people. But someone like the Joker has proved time and time again that peace is not on his cards because he doesn't care about changing. He only lives to harm others, and in most cases tries to get Batman to kill him so he can prove a point about the very rule that I am ironically criticizing. The Joker's entire existence proves that Batman's handling of the no-kill rule is flawed because he's now a force of nature that has no intent on becoming better. If anything, he only gets worse and worse. I know other people dislike Batman because he won't straight up kill the Joker. Trust me, as much as I would like to see that, I can understand some instances on why he can't. But my overall problem with his no kill rule as a whole is not only his hypocritical fighting choice, brain damage, but the fact that he doesn't really do much that's super meaningful in terms of these super violent universes, and he's condescending enough to believe everyone operates, or should operate, the same way as him.